A lot of Amazon news happening with Trump tariffs and the new change that affects tomorrow. And this is going to be a big one, especially if you're paying attention to Temu and Shein. My name is Stephen Pope. I'm the founder of My Amazon Guy. Melissa Chen breaks this news about the de minimis loophole, which is set to expire tomorrow. So she talks about how this is allowed for a tacky fashion company that sells mostly crap and has long relied on unfair and unwarranted trade advantages. And this loophole allows goods to be shipped directly from overseas to American consumers as long as the value of each package is under $800 without any customs declaration. It's cheap, direct, untaxed, and unregulated. It's a law that existed since the 1930s, but long before the internet and the existence of e-commerce retailers. Last year, the U.S. received 1 billion packages, billion with a B, guys, from China. Through this loophole, the CBP, Customs and Border Protection, cannot possibly inspect items at the scale. So things do slip through the cracks. Unsafe items, knockoffs, products made with forced labor from Xinjiang, and yes, chemicals that are used to make fentanyl. That's been a huge topic, especially with the Trump tariffs trying to close down Mexico and Canada borders, using that as a main theme to their conversations. And just an hour ago, Trump spoke to the president of Mexico, who agreed to put 10,000 troops on the border to help prevent drug cartels trafficking, both fentanyl and kids and other things that are coming across the border. So a lot is happening as it relates to this. Melissa goes on to talk about how in 2022, just to put this in perspective, Gap paid $700 million, while H&M paid $200 million in import taxes. Temu paid zero. Free trade, once again, is not free. It's flooding our markets with cheap, crappy, potential toxic goods, gutting our own retail markets, and allowing unsavory foreign competitors to exploit loopholes and gain unfair advantages over retailers who have to play by the rules because of geography. Today's news is probably going to make Amazon the happiest of anybody because they have been paying internet taxes for some time. You might remember when you could buy things online from Amazon and other online retailers and not have to pay any sales tax. That was awesome. I remember those days myself. And I loved living in the States that were the last ones to start taxing it. That was the day. So Amazon started to make its own Temu Lite program to try and compete with this. And, that has only been around, 6 months now. So this is going to prevent Temu from taking off. It's going to be a flash pan, which I've called a year ago or maybe even 2 years ago, where I talked about how Temu was going to be a flash pan, highly backed investment firm. Nobody thought Trump was going to win again. Here he is trying to take care of business, put in fair practices, level the playing field, help American businesses, put up a 25% tariff on Canada and Mexico. All of a sudden, half the businesses in Canada are starting to talk about moving to the United States. Mexico economy is going to take a dive. I think it was like a 4% hit on the Canadian and Mexican currencies over the weekend with the tariff news, because we are like a third of their economy or something crazy in both countries. So these are things that are all developing right now. And as an Amazon seller, you can't really make a lot of decisions right now with this stuff. It's just going super laser fast. But for those that have followed me for some time, you guys know I tried to make stuff in America. And I tried to manufacture holsters. I manufactured soap. I actually did succeed at the soap. The holsters were a total terrible thing. That didn't work at all. I had sage smudge sticks and mom gifts and boxes and all kinds of good things. In any case, I found it very difficult to make a profit manufacturing in the United States. Many of you can relate to that unless you're in supplements or in grocery. Well, these changes are going to really rapidly change the landscape in the next year. You're going to see manufacturing come back to the States, most likely, especially with today's change with the de minimis entries from China being shut down effective Tuesday, tomorrow. So those that are selling low-cost commodity items maybe have a better advantage if made in the United States now, because those import taxes are going to start being collected in the billions of dollars on these companies. So would not be surprised to see Temu stock crater, more than half of its entire stock might crater. Let's also not forget that Trump put a 10% tariff on China. That's part of the trade agreements that they're updating. Some might even call it a trade war. And there's just a lot of unfair practices that favored foreign entities, like this law that's now changing from the 1930s that allowed China to ship in basically anything under $800 and not pay import taxes, which is gigantic. Some of these, categories have a tariff of 30% or an import tax of 30%. Others have 100%, which obviously that's a huge amount of cost reduction. Most businesses operate under a 15% net profit. So if you're avoiding a 30% import tax, that's gigantic. Huge, huge, huge difference. So these are really big news updates. As an Amazon seller, as you're looking ahead, you're going to need to start asking the question, can this be made in the United States? But for the early entrants, the early movers, you're not going to save any money, realistically speaking. This is going to take several years of building, but maybe you have some property. Maybe you start building your own manufacturing plant and you prepare for those things. Maybe you acquire one. Those prices and values of those manufacturing plants are going to go up. Capacity and orders are going to go up. So if you have a local manufacturing in the United States, you're probably going to see it get busier. So get those orders in now versus later. Some of those things could happen. But in terms of the landscape and what we're going to see, I think we're going to see more Trump business changes to how other countries have taken advantage of the United States laws, and we're going to see Trump level those playing fields to try and prop up the local manufacturing business and plants. And we're going to see a lot of labor changes. We're going to see a lot of changes to tariffs and taxes. Trump's talked a lot about getting rid of the income tax and using tariffs as a way to fill the coffers, which is something the United States actually did historically. In case you guys don't know, you guys can look that up. I think it was like 50 years the United States ran on tariffs. Income taxes not existed for that long. Just Googled it. Civil War led to the creation of the first income tax and enacted in 1913. Officially. And then many of the taxes we pay were created in the 1920s and 30s, including the estate tax, gift tax, social security taxes. I got to tell you guys, I think the United States has never been more taxed in the history of the world. I know a lot of other countries pay even more taxes, but it's crazy how many taxes we pay. And as an Amazon seller, I also feel the pinch from the Amazon fees going up, taxes going up, import taxes going up. So we're going to see a lot of changes to how the economy is going to function. It's going to be, I bet you, it's going to be short-term pain for long-term gain. And I personally, I've been to China. It's a culture of corruption, bribery, penny pinching, and also corner cutting. And so the American culture is a little bit different, maybe on the opposite side of the spectrum. And so if things are made locally, sourced locally, and it was a fair system, fair trade, fair costs, same tax structure, etc., we may see a much happier society where we're not having to rely upon containers coming out of China, let alone the slavery practices and the chemicals and some of the other, putting lead into kids' toys. And, there's a lot of rabbit holes you guys can go down to look at that. But I visited the country and I did not have a good experience. And and you guys can, look at my content the last 7 years. I spent years trying to make things in Georgia. I joined the Georgia Manufacturing Alliance 7 years ago. I started touring facilities, and then I finally started making stuff in the Carolinas personally, and then sourcing things and trying to make it. And then I failed. So even though I thought it was the right thing to do, I still failed, couldn't pull a profit, got in over my head on warehouse costs. So that's why when I tell you guys what to do or suggest what you should do, caution to all of these changes. Yes, they're going to affect you. Yes, you're going to be paying more in import taxes while you watch things change. No question about it. But there's very little you can do unless you're going to be an early mover, early adopter with high risk, high reward, but high risk. And it's very going to be very difficult to watch that and see like if you're going to pull it off. So I'll be paying attention to some of these laws and changes, but honestly, if I was an Amazon seller today, I'd just put my head in the ground, continue optimizing my PPC, looking at my A plus content, making sure my alt text is filled, and following all the best practices we preach, like CTR, SEO, and PPC on the channel, because this next year is going to be a wild ride, no matter what happens. I'm also watching Elon Musk and Doge go to town on the U.S. aid corruption, and they're finding out that U.S. aid has been basically funneling money to NGOs and the political spectrum, and that's crazy all in its own right, but not really Amazon seller news centric on that front. Just a lot of geopolitics going on right now, and it's going to be changing by the day. My name is Stephen Pope. I'm the founder of My Amazon Guy. And if you're wondering if this is AI, it is not. I got a hair transplant. You can even see a little bit of my wounds healing. I got jaw surgery, so my jaw looks different. I got fit AF, right? Like I got muscles now. Like check that out. That's like, legit. I got a 6-pack. I won't show that. And I can do 50 push-ups now. So a little bit different body shape. You'll see some of my old content and new content getting mixed together, and that'll probably cause some confusion. But I'm trying to start making some new content, and news was the easiest thing for me to start shooting. So that's why I made today's video. Leave me a comment. Let me know if you think I'm AI. Love you guys later.